The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast here on a late. Actually, I'm recording this on a very late Thursday night. In fact, it's so late that it's almost midnight. I actually didn't even want to do this podcast right now. I actually wanted to do the podcast earlier today, but as I've always said in this show time and time again, sometimes life happens, sometimes responsibility happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I really, in recent weeks, have tried to avoid recording shows at nighttime. I've come to a point now where, I think I might have said this on one of the episodes recently, that it's a lot harder for me to get motivated to record late at night, because especially with the schedule I'm on now, where I work nights as it is anyway, and then when I'm not working, I'm home with my kids, putting the little one to sleep. That takes a little bit of time to accomplish, and by the time he's already asleep, I'm spent. I have little bandwidth left. I have maybe 10% left. Now, granted, I can use that 10% and put it towards the podcast, but then half the time I don't feel as focused, I don't feel as energetic, I don't feel as motivated to do it, and it's part of the reasons why I've done less shows in recent weeks. Also, it is summertime, it also is kind of like the calm for the storm. Football's on the way very soon, and the sports calendar's picking up. Of course, family life is picking up too, also with school and everything else, work and all that. So, the podcast, to some degree, has suffered. Now, we did a podcast yesterday. We recorded one yesterday, with my good friend Zach. Did NFL Over-Unders, which is one of my two favorite podcasts of the year. But another reason why I'm pushing through this right now is because right now we are under a hurricane threat. You guys know I'm living in South Florida, Palm Beach County, to be more accurate. And there is a Hurricane Dorian, that is actually expected to hit the state of Florida sometime this weekend, maybe early next week. Now, the question is, we don't know where exactly is the impact going to be in terms of where it will hit. If you look at all the spaghetti models that they've shown so far all week long, many of them have been going a little bit north of where I'm at. There's one European model, in fact, that has it going south of where I'm at, actually going through Miami, and not even hitting South Florida until Wednesday, and then jog up the coast after that. So this, of course, whenever it gets to this time of year, and there's a threat of a storm, and it's actually a realistic chance it'll hit where we're at, panic or not enough panic, or everybody's an expert on hurricanes, and I've gone to many major storms. Most notably for me, 12 years old, 1992, August 24th, Hurricane Andrew, and I lived in Miami at the time, and Hurricane Andrew is one of the worst storms in the history of this country. Excuse me. And, the fact that we survived that, to be quite honest with you, we did pretty well. I know it was my mother, me, my brother, my youngest brother also was really, really, really young. He was only, a year old at the time, 2 years old at the time. My youngest sister was actually only a year old at the time too, and I remember being in the hallway of our apartment upstairs. And we were living in, I believe, in Kendall, and we set up beds and mattresses in the hallway, because they say the hallway is one of the safest places to be at in your apartment or in your house, the hallway or the bathroom, because the way everything's built in a home, that's the safest part in the event the roof comes off. So I remember being locked in the hallway as a kid, and having my old broken down clock radio. And I used to listen to sports talk radio at 12 years old, and I would listen to Brian Norcross, give updates on the storm, what was going on, this and that. I also remember my mother being on the phone with my grandmother, God rest her soul, most of the night, and just checking on the family, checking on on us, and talking to her a little bit too, and It was kind of scary at times, but then as the night went on, it actually went pretty quick for the most part. Like, the process of setting up for the hurricane was actually a lot longer than the actual storm itself. Like, it hit us, I would say about 3, 4 in the morning, and I would dare say by 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, it was gone out of our area. It was really such a shock too, because like, I missed the first 2 weeks of school, obviously, because of the damage and whatnot. So school started 2 weeks late. I think I was going to 7th grade at the time. But yeah, I've gone through hurricanes. I went through a couple of storms in 2004. We had like, I think 2. In 2004 and 2005, we had 3 storms that I went through. That was, an adventure in itself. And then we had the storm last year, 2 years ago rather, that hit here. Now, I didn't go through that because and that was Irma, I believe, because we actually ended up evacuating, to Charlotte to stay with my cousin. And the reason why we did that, because the storm we looked, based on what we thought we were going to get at the time, looked like a disaster, it was going to be a big disaster. And our second son, Logan, was already born. He was only 5 months old, and we had never gone through a storm with either of our kids, my wife and I. And to this day, we have not gone through a storm yet with our kids. And this year, assuming this thing hits us, we're going to go through as a family for the first time. I've already warned my oldest son about what's going on, about the hurricane, what it's about, all that. He's kind of, I won't say he's nervous yet. I don't think he understands the magnitude of what's going to happen and what could happen, and losing power and all that. So there's going to be a lot to digest and prepare for in the coming days. I already started preparing. I already have got gassed up my SUV ready and all that. So we have all that. I got some food ready set up for that, for the kids and all that. So we're actually doing our due diligence to make sure. Again, most of the models has it going slightly north of us. And obviously that it still isn't be impactful to where we're at, but I don't think it'll be a direct hit to where we're at, but it's still will feel some effects, obviously. Probably nowhere as close as we probably thought it was going to be. But again, it's still early. It can still hit us directly. You know what's going to happen. But I'm a little more annoyed because of the fact that, missing work probably. Wife and I both missing work probably for this. And, it kind of, something like this. And I'm not complaining because obviously it is what it is. But things like this upsets the apple cart. And I think also too, we're assuming we lose power for the storm, assuming that things are not what we want it to be, we're gonna go back to a place of appreciation again, of appreciating having power, appreciating having food, appreciating having convenience, appreciating having, there's some of the things that we take for granted. And I feel like every time we go through these cycles of having a storm either threaten us or hit us or whatnot, we go through this little cycle of appreciation. I don't know. Do we need that? I guess sometimes it's a good reminder to know what we have. Not what we don't have, but again, these storms, they upset the apple cart, and I just want this to be over so I can get on with my life. I'm not trying to complain, but I'm just being honest, being real. So that's that. So yesterday, I actually watched the controversial but very funny Dave Chappelle stand-up, Sticks and Stones on Netflix. Now, I'm a big fan of Chappelle's TV show that he had back in 2002, 3, and 4. In fact, I own the DVDs. I think it's some of the most brilliant comedy in the history of the genre. I have necessarily never been a big Chappelle fan in terms of his stand-up. Now, I'm not saying it's not good, but I don't think his style, the way he delivers his jokes as much, at least back when, because it's been years since I watched any of his stand-ups, is not my cup of tea. Now, I didn't watch this. He had came back to stand-up comedy, I think 2 years ago, and I started to watch one of his 2 that he released on Netflix 2 years ago. I started to watch it, but I never finished it. So, but all in all, prior to that, I hadn't watched a Chappelle stand-up probably about 10 plus years. I'm not even kidding when I say that. That's probably a stretch, maybe longer. But, with all the controversy surrounding it, and things he said and, whatnot, and people being offended left and right, and people loving his honesty, it made me want to watch it. it made me want to watch it. And I gotta tell you, it was brilliant. The whole thing was brilliant. You know, he goes in on everything. He goes in on cancel culture and the fact that the hypocrisy of it all. You know, going into the, you know, probably the biggest talking point this week of the entire thing was his opinion on the Michael Jackson documentary. Well, the documentary on the alleged accusers of Michael Jackson of Leaving Neverland, and basically saying that he doesn't believe him, but he said in quite blunt words, basically said, "I don't believe those motherfuckers." Pretty much blunt. Which, by the way, I agree with Chappelle here too, because I don't believe him either. And there's reasons why I don't believe him, and there's actually good evidence why I don't believe them. But going in also to the R. Kelly stuff, going into Louis C.K., you know, going into abortion and societal issues, and, you know, even the opioids. He even touched the opioids crisis. I mean, some of the things he was saying there, like, I can see why, if he didn't watch the special, he didn't watch what he was saying, and take the context into it, you would be offended. And I get that. But again, this is what comedy is about anyway in the first place. Like, I think we got to a point now in society that we're so obsessed with canceling things. And granted, I'm not saying that you shouldn't cancel things. I'm saying, you know, if there's something that truly offends you, or you think it's truly bad, and you know for a fact that it's bad, and you've seen the proof that it's bad, yeah, probably should want it in your life. And I'm totally with you on that 100%. But this idea of cancel culture, it's just stupid. It's just really dumb, and it's a fad now. Oh, he's canceled, she's canceled. Like, stop already, man. How about you do what you want, you know, regardless, and I won't judge you for it. How about that, you know? But unfortunately, we don't live in that world anymore. But the whole thing of the special, which I love, the whole thing of the special, and the reason why I really enjoyed it, is because Dave Chappelle, you know, calling out folks, calling out the hypocrisy of it all, calling out, you know, this speaking his piece, you know, and being honest to a fault. And, you know, that's kind of lacking. And in a time now where comedians and celebrities are now, like right now being a celebrity and being a comedian, not a good time to be in that world, because you are now a target. You are now a target for many critics. But that's what I love about Chappelle. Chappelle used to be part of that world. Dave Chappelle was a part of Hollywood back in the 2000s. And then he left. Remember, he left after he had gotten that big contract from Comedy Central to do season 3, I believe, of the Chappelle show. And then he just turned it down and then just disappeared off the face of the earth, went to Africa. We didn't, for a whole year or two, we didn't know why he left, and people called him crazy and you know, nuts and stuff. But a lot of things that he went through. I mean, I remember him being on Oprah. Now, I'm not a big Oprah fan necessarily, but I remember being on Oprah and him saying what he went through. And, you know, I don't think Chappelle is part of the Hollywood world anymore like he was. But, you know, one of the things I love about the special is that he's just brutally honest to a fault. You don't have to agree with what he's saying, but the way he spins the stuff, the way he spins the jokes, but spins it in a way where it's intelligent. I mean, it captured me. And again, I'm not a big Chappelle stand-up guy, as I've said, but I may need to revisit that, because I think maybe as I've gotten older, the style he has now, his style may resonate with me now, in, you know, as opposed to how it resonated with me when I was 22, 23 years old. You know, so, you know, and that's the thing with Chappelle too. At the end of the day, and this is what I took away from the special. The one thing I respect about him is that he speaks his piece and he keeps it moving. He doesn't without sounding preachy, which in this day and age is hard to do. He just says what he says and keeps that moving. You know, and you know, I love it. I can't urge you or anybody listening to this podcast enough to check out the Chappelle special, Sticks and Stones. It's phenomenal stand-up. I mean, I guess I can easily say it's his best. Although, I mean, again, I'm going against the past stuff that I haven't watched in a while and never watched it all. So, but yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones on Netflix. Definitely watch it. Also this week, Andrew Luck, Colts quarterback, no longer Colts quarterback, surprisingly retired at the age of 29. I was at a bar with a buddy of mine, friends of mine actually. Actually, one of my friends was with me. I was saying Zach Degenerate, the Gamma Degenerate, on this podcast, the last episode, doing over-unders. Him and I and a couple of friends were at a local bar watching the Florida Gators Miami Hurricanes game. And, we were enjoying the game, of course, enjoying the company. I didn't drink. I just got food and kept it simple. Wanted to watch the games and just have good company because I don't have guide time like that like I used to with my schedule. So it was kind of cool to have that time with friends. Then all of a sudden we go through and we see the ticker. We see a real breaking news red ticker on the bottom screen of the ABC/ESPN TV station. Andrew Luck will announce his retirement at age 29. And on one hand, I'm shocked because obviously he's young. He was just comeback player of the year last year. He came back, had a phenomenal season. He goes to the playoffs again. They actually won a playoff game on top of that. And the Colts had a really good offseason. They're supposed to they're one of the favorites to win the AFC this year, maybe even go to the Super Bowl. And then you have this news. So on one hand, I'm surprised, but on the other hand, I shouldn't be because if you followed Andrew Luck over the course of the last 3 to 4 years, and the ungodly amounts of injuries he's gone through, it's insane. And any guy would probably want to retire, walk away, regardless of the money, whatever that may be. And it had to be frustrating to be Andrew Luck because he had these injuries in the last couple of years. Came back last year, had a phenomenal year. Then recently, it was announced that he had an issue with his lower extremities. I think his ankle was calf. I can't remember exactly what it is. So he was already doubtful for week 1. So he's already dealing with a new injury now. By the way, I wrote about this, my opinion on his retirement and some of the stuff around it, all the media feuds that are going on, reacting to his retirement and whatnot. But the list of injuries, if you look at the list of injuries he gained through this thing, I mean, it's incredible. Like a lesser man would have just quit, 2-3 years ago. Here's the injuries he went through, in order that caused his retirement. He had a torn cartilage in 2 ribs, okay, a partially torn abdomen, a lacerated kidney that left him peeing blood, okay. He had at least 1 concussion, a torn labrum in his throwing shoulder, which actually was one of the death nails. Is the reason why he probably did this, because it took him a long time to get that figured out. And then recently, as I was saying, the recent calf ankle issue that led to this retirement. And I'm looking at Luck, and I'm thinking, you got to be tough as nails to deal with this. I mean, regardless, people talk about the money and he's a quarterback, you come back and he shouldn't quit. Look, you're not in this situation. You can't sit there and judge. Sorry. I mean, do fans have a right to be pissed for him leaving in a certain way? Maybe, obviously, first off, he was going to announce retirement the next day on Sunday, but Adam Schefter had leaked out on Twitter that he was retiring, and it was announced in the middle of the Colts-Bears preseason game, which Andrew Luck happened to be there. He had no idea it was being announced, and as he's walking off the field, fans start booing him. A section of fans start booing him, and of course, as he said in his press conference, it hurt him, and I get it, but it's one of those things where he's a very genuine guy, authentic, and you root for a guy like Andrew Luck. And through the 7 years of playing football, you got the assumption that he loved the game. He was joyful about the game. But as he said in his press conference, these injuries and the mental, the mental agony he went through to get healthy again, took his joy. And that's the thing. No matter how much you love something, if you don't enjoy doing it, no matter how much money you make on something, if you don't enjoy doing it, you can't fake that. You can't fake that at all. So I respect Luck what he did. Now, do I think he comes back? I don't know. Now, I doubt he comes back. The way he sounded on his press conference, he sounded like he was not going to come back. there's a lot of like media feuds that have happened through this whole thing now. Most notably Doug Gottlieb. What a nut! Doug Gottlieb's one of the worst radio guys out there. He's known for contrarian takes. He's quite annoying. I don't know how I tolerated him for years on ESPN. He's not on Fox Sports. I can't stand his music. I can't stand his show, and I try to avoid him at all costs. You know, he basically called Luck a millennial for retiring, which Troy Aikman put him in his place, which I loved. A couple of feuds out there, and you know, Steve Erline actually had a lot of things to say the next day also too, which I actually disagree with Steve Erline, who's a former NFL quarterback. I disagree with him, but at least his criticism of Luck was a lot more sensible and more, you know, less trollish, more detailed, and at least he explained himself in a way where it's a lot more intelligent. I disagree with his take, but it still made, you know, at the same time, it was a lot more intelligent. As for the Hall of Fame, I mean, look, 7 years. I mean, he was on the way to the Hall of Fame anyway. His career was on that path. And I in my article, in my blog, I wrote on the website, you should check out earnestly.net. I compared this to Gale Sayers. Gale Sayers played 7 years. He's in the Hall of Fame. In fact, Gale Sayers is still considered to this day one of the 5 to 10 best running backs in the history of the game. So does that help Angela's case? I don't think so. I mean, the numbers are decent, are really, really good for a 7-year window. I don't know if he needed 9 or 10 years to get to that point. I'm gonna say no. I mean, if he gets in, I'll be happy for him, and surely I'm not gonna vote against it. I mean, if I had a vote, I don't have a vote, but I'm saying if I had a vote, I wouldn't vote against it. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's first ballot or anything like that, but something to consider. I don't know. It's something that I just don't think he'll get in. I just don't think he'll get in. I think the thing, him not being available as much in the last couple of years, I think maybe hurts his chances. But one thing I will say about Luck, you know, for all the money in the world and the fame and all that, he's wired differently. I love it. I respect him listening to his body. His body betrayed him. And that's the bottom line. And you have to respect that. At the end of the day. So, you know, Andrew Luck, 7 years, you know, gave his body, literally gave his body to the sport that you love, and that it took his joy. It's like you said, he doesn't have joy for the game anymore, and I don't blame him. That's simple. Speaking of quarterbacks, I'm going to reveal now my top 6 quarterbacks in the league going into the year. Luck was on this list actually. I'm kind of glad I had meant to do this top 6 list last week before he announced his retirement, but now that he did, I'm kind of glad I waited. I'm really glad I waited until this week to do it, you know, because I have to do a modification. But my top 6 quarterbacks entering the year, and the NFL season starts next week. Right now, as we're recording this, we're going through the final week of preseason football. Thank God. I'm sick of preseason football. It's fake football. I can't stand it. I don't think I've watched more than 5 minutes of football. I watched a little bit of Daniel Jones and the Giants, which I'll probably do a spot on that next week before week 1 starts. My thoughts on the Giants in detail. But my top 6 quarterbacks entering the season, and I think I'll go 6-1. Okay, number 6, I'm gonna go Deshaun Watson. Now, my concern to Deshaun Watson is this: I don't want him to end up like Andrew Luck. That O-line last year was horrible. The Texas O-line was horrible. Hopefully, that's fixed. But if that line is good, you know, and Watson was still good even with the line being bad. So imagine him having a great line. I think because of Luck being gone, he benefits from being a top 6 guy now. And I do think the Texans are definitely the odds-on favorite to win the AFC South, as long as Watson stays upright. So Watson's number 6 for me. Number 5 is Big Ben Roethlisberger. I've said it before many times over the summer. I think he's looking for a value MVP candidate for this year, especially by virtue of who he's lost. I'm still high on the Steelers this year. I think Steelers still win the division, the AFC North. I think Big Ben will be a nice value bet for MVP this year. Last year he threw for over 200 yards. Who's to say you can do something like that again? I mean, he's a high volume thrower with the ball as is anyway. Obviously, injuries, of course, is an issue, but other than that, he should be fine. Number 4 is Russell Wilson, my favorite player in the entire league. As I say every year, if you're a league quarterback, you're worth 8 wins out the gate. So the Seattle Seahawks, to me, should be in the conversation for the playoffs again this year. Russell Wilson, again, gotten paid, highest paid player in the league right now. And to me, he's still great. He's great. Last year he showed. People thought that the Seahawks last year would draw back. Thought that the Seahawks would just, become mediocre at worst. No, Russell Wilson, the Seahawks made it to the playoffs last year. Should have won a playoff game against Dallas, but that wasn't his fault. That was more of the coaching staff. But Russell Wilson is definitely a quarterback. That's not even a conversation anymore. Number 3, Tom Brady. Now, people say, why don't have Tom Brady a little higher? Well, because, again, Tom Brady's still really, really great. But, again, he's not, he can't carry a team in the same way that the top 2 guys can do now physically. He's still really, really good, but that system he's into also does help. The short, 2 second drop backs, throwing the ball, quick hitting, throws. It helps. I'm not saying Brady's not great. Brady will still make timely throws, but anybody that knows anything will tell you that there is some deterioration in Tom Brady. Something great. He didn't have a phenomenal year last year. He had a good year, but last year was one of his, more just like whatever years. I mean, he's had better years than last year. But he's had big moments, and that's why Tom Brady's still in the top 3. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Now, I say this because the fact that when healthy, he's still probably the second or first or top quarterback in the league. Obviously, the issue, he's got to stay healthy. To me, this is a big crossover year for Aaron Rodgers. He's new coach now, Matt LaFleur, and we'll see where that goes. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can be returned to glory. And that's just that. But when healthy, he's certainly one of the best or 2 best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Number 1 of the year, of course, is Patrick Mahomes. Phenomenal. It was his rookie year last year, but you might as well call it his rookie year. With the Chiefs, was second to win the Super Bowl last year. I don't think he'll do what he did last year. I don't think he'll equal numbers-wise with last year, but impact will still be there. I think Mahomes is the real deal. The guy's just phenomenal. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Hopefully, the Chiefs continue to build around him, and let's hope that somebody other than the Patriots win the AFC this year for once. So again, 1 through 6 ago was Mahomes 1, Rodgers 2, Brady 3, Wilson 4, Roethlisberger still at 5, and Deshaun Watson at 6. All right. Finally, before I go, some wrestling stuff I'll talk about real quick. We are now on the verge of having the Wednesday Night Wars. Now, if you've been a wrestling fan for over 20 plus years, certainly you remember the Monday Night Wars back when WWF and WCW, duked it out, WWE, whatever you call it. Well, we're going to have the Wednesday Night Wars starting in October. NXT, which is actually the WWE's developmental program, is being moved from the network itself to USA Network on Wednesdays. And that's going to counter AEW, the new promotion that's starting out in October, at the same time. Now, NXT is a developmental, well, it's said to be developmental, well, it's used as a developmental platform. But with them moving to USA Network, which is September 18th, the assumption now, at least on my end, is that NXT will now be its own entity in some degree. In the same way WWE uses Raw and SmackDown as its own brand, certainly I expect them to go that route going forward. I know they used to do that a lot, on a more consistent basis back in the mid-2000s. I expect NXT to be its own brand in itself, and compete with AEW. Now, I haven't gotten to NXT yet. I did watch a little bit of their last show last week. I mean, again, it has like an ECW vibe that is more, it's obviously it's not in the big arenas, the small arenas, but it's a lot more intimate. Some of the guys there are really, really good. Adam Cole and Matt Riddle and some of the guys that wrestler. But I'll be honest with you, people ask me, what am I going to watch? Given the choice, I'm going to watch AEW because AEW is one I'm really more, shall I say, intrigued by AEW and what they're going to do. Because they've had pay-per-view so far, but they haven't been able to do much other than that because they don't have a TV platform yet until October. So they have these pay-per-views and they've done these cool vignettes. The vignette they did with who was it? Kenny Omega recently was really good. When he found out that Jon Moxley not going to be able to wrestle on the pay-per-view on Saturday because of his he has a staph infection and all that. But AEW I think is going to be a lot edgier than WWE. At least it already shows to be that way. These sort of pay-per-views. But I'm really curious to see how AEW and how their storylines when they start going to TV, how it develops. Now NXT again, and this isn't really a problem for me now going forward. It's bad enough that football is back coming up, college football and NFL is coming back. You're gonna have baseball pennant right now, and the playoffs. You're gonna have the NBA back in about a month or so, month and a half. How am I gonna fit 9 hours of wrestling a week? You got 3 hours of Raw on Monday, 2 hours of SmackDown on Tuesday, which will then be moved to Fridays in October. Okay, that's 5 hours there. You're gonna have 2 hours of AEW on Wednesday, and now 2 hours of NXT on Wednesday as well too. How am I gonna fit that many hours of wrestling in 1 week and share that with not only my sports in the fall, but also my TV shows I want to watch also too, and counter that with podcasting, listen to podcasts, Audible books, watch my kids, time with my wife, all that. It's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be a huge challenge for me. It's great that we have a lot of content to watch and to listen to, all that. It's great. Sometimes I wish I had less to do or less to watch because it's so much. It's just so much. So I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. How I'm gonna get through the content or whatever. I hope maybe they make edited versions of these shows going forward. I don't know. But I don't know. We'll see. That's my bag though. So who cares? Anyway, that'll do it. This is probably the last podcast I'll do for a while. Till the storm passes, because obviously I'm working on the weekend, and then the storm should be hitting here sometime between Sunday and Tuesday, and hopefully I'll have power through the entire thing, if not at least right after the storm. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter, of course, at EJChristian7, Earnestly Podcast. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all that good stuff. Talk to you guys later. Oh, and also on YouTube as well, too. On YouTube as well. Talk to you guys later. God bless y'all, and see ya.